What is up, everyone? Guys, listen up. In today's video, we're gonna be breaking down every single premium war bond in the game. I'm gonna go over the best items in the war bonds, meaning weapons, grenades, boosters, pretty much all the good stuff. In order to make this as informative as possible, first we're gonna put all of these items into a tier list, and then we'll cover which war bond you should get first, second, and third. And by the end of this video, it's gonna be much easier for you guys to decide which war bond to buy first. Let's say you're just hopping into the game. As for the armor, there's a lot of them that are not in these war bonds that I'm going to be making a separate tier list video for armor, so stay tuned for that. I've played this game non-stop. We're talking 650 hours plus on Helldivers 2. I play solo on Helldive. I test all of these items both off stream and on stream, by the way, both on YouTube and on Twitch pretty much every day from Friday to Tuesday. So I would absolutely love to see every single one of you guys live on stream. So we're going to start with the latest war bond, which is the democratic detonation. The thermite grenade is the first one that you're gonna pretty much encounter when we're talking about this war bond, and this one just isn't that great overall. Don't get me wrong, you can take out hulks. If you throw like 3-4 of them at the hulks, you can take out even a bile titan if the bile titan is damaged, and then you're trying to finish them off with this grenade. If you stick the bile titan with like 3 or 4 grenades, yes, sometimes it will get a kill, but overall it just does not provide as much value to you as some of the other grenades in the game, and we're going to discuss those as we move through the war bonds. And if we're talking about chargers, or let's say even smaller enemies, it really isn't anything crazy. So we're going to go ahead and throw this into C tier right away, and the next item is going to be the adjudicator marksman rifle. Now, first thing you want to understand is that currently marksmans in Helldivers 2 aren't in the greatest spot in general, and this weapon is no exception. It's kind of one of those weird ones where it really doesn't feel like a marksman. It feels more like an AR. If you look at the stats, it says 80 damage, capacity 25, recoil 50, fire rate 550, which on paper is pretty decent. It still doesn't get the job done as you would think it should. It's a marksman rifle. Technically, it should be hitting a little bit harder. It shouldn't take so many bullets to take out a medium armored target, for example. It does have medium armor penetration, which is really nice, by the way. But the problem with this weapon is that there's other options with medium armor penetration, and some of them even without medium armor penetration, that are just overall better than this weapon. So you're not going to be utilizing it in 99% of the cases. Now, it's a different story if you just enjoy marksman rifles, and if you want to run it, go ahead. It looks cool, it feels cool, but in terms of how effective it is, it's definitely not one of the best weapons in the game. So we're gonna put this at B tier. Let's move on to the second page, and now we're gonna talk about the one and only Eruptor. This weapon is an absolute monster, and we're talking across the board, not just Terminids, but it's absolutely amazing against the automatons as well. The amount of damage that it deals is incredible. I mean, it's a primary weapon that, for example, if you're playing against Terminids, can literally close down bug holes. No other primary weapon in the game does that. On top of that, it's both medium armor penetrating and explosive. And if you look at the stats, we have 380 damage, capacity in the mag is 5, recoil is 75, and fire rate is 25. Yes, it does feel a little bit clunky, I'm not gonna lie to you, because overall it is like look at it as like a 50 cal, right? It does crazy amounts of damage. It's not supposed to feel really light in your hands. So in terms of what it's supposed to do, it does it really well. Medium armor, no problem. And it pretty much deals damage to any kind of enemy in the game, which is ridiculous. It destroys devastators. You can take out factories when we're talking about the automatons. So overall, there's nothing in the game that does what this weapon does when it comes to primary weapons. So this is easily gonna go to S tier, no doubt about it. Now let's quickly go over the booster. I'm just gonna break this down. For example, if the extraction is like 2 minutes, it's gonna drop it by like 20 seconds, which could be nice, but once again, that's not one of the biggest issues in the game, and there's definitely way better boosters in the Warbonds, and especially in the normal Warbond, and you're most likely not gonna be running this at the moment. It might get a buff, who knows, it goes from 20 seconds to 40 or 50 or even a minute, we don't know. But currently I do feel like there are way better boosters in the game, so this is not one of those items that you would chase in this Warbond. Okay, here we are. This is the last page of the Warbond, and the first weapon that we're gonna discuss is the grenade pistol. Let's quickly take a look at the stats here. Damage is 600, capacity is 1, so you pretty much shoot 1, then you reload. Recoil 43, fire rate 900, one-handed, and explosive. So one-handed is a really cool addition to this pistol, obviously, because that means that, for example, you can run this with the ballistic shield. This weapon does what no other secondary in the game does. Playing against the Terminates, you can easily close down the bug holes. You can destroy doors, destroy structures for the missions. If you're going against automatons, it pretty much does crazy amounts of damage to everything. It also takes out factories, devastators. The fact that you have a secondary that has so many different things that it can do is actually mind-blowing. If you're playing against the Terminates, mushrooms get two-shot with this thing, right? So it creates another way to change up your builds the same way like the Eruptor does. So let's say if you don't want to use the Eruptor for bug holes or factories or whatever, you can slap on the grenade pistol and it pretty much does the same. No other secondary in the game does what this one does, which makes it an extremely unique weapon. For me personally, since I've unlocked this weapon, I've never used any other secondary again. And unless they add something absolutely insane to the game in terms of secondaries, this weapon is not going anywhere. This is my main secondary weapon in the game. And it is one of those weapons that, once again, completely switches up your loadout. And that is a huge thing in a game like Helldivers 2. So overall, easy S tier pick. So that's where we're gonna drop this. And finally, let's discuss the crossbow. As you guys can see, damage 420, which is pretty high, capacity 5, recoil 35, fire rate 50, and it is an explosive weapon. And by the way, the explosion that it makes is pretty big. You can easily clear ads with this if you want to. However, keep in mind, it's one of those weapons that definitely have a skill gap. You can't just shoot your enemies at any range. If they are close to you, you will be damaging yourself. If you manage to master the weapon, understand how to use it, keep range, utilize it to its maximum potential, it's actually pretty good. Yes, it doesn't say medium armor penetration, but at the end of the day, both plasma weapons and explosive weapons really don't care about medium armor as much. And this weapon is pretty decent for both of the enemies, both for the Terminates and automatons. I really like this weapon. I know that not a lot of people enjoy it, but for me, it was a lot of fun to use and it was pretty effective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the crossbow in between A and B tier. I feel like this is pretty good for this weapon. Okay, that was it for the democratic detonation. Now let's move on to the next premium warbond that we're going to discuss, and that's going to be cutting edge. This is a very, very cool and unique warbond. Right away, you start off with the sickle, which in my opinion is easily one of the best weapons in the game. Damage 55, fire limit 9, recoil 2, and fire rate 750. So the cool thing is this weapon pretty much has infinite ammo. As long as you don't overheat it, you're just gonna keep shooting. And even if you do overheat it, you can just reload and then go again. But technically, once you master it, you're not gonna have that issue of overheating anyway. Everything about this weapon is just good. The damage feels great. The weapon overall feels amazing. Recoil is very, very easy to control, and the fire rate is also very nice. However, it does not have medium armor penetration, but that's the only downside to this weapon. So everything else puts this weapon at S tier. So if you're looking for a gun to clear ads easily, both sides, by the way, automatons or Terminates, this is the weapon for you. You're gonna have a great time. You cannot go wrong with this weapon. And if you combine this with something like the grenade pistol, for example, that's a phenomenal combo right there. So yes, once again, sickle goes to S tier. Now let's quickly discuss the localization confusion. This is a booster that comes with this warbond, increases the time between enemy encounters. I have tested this over and over and over again. I didn't see any difference. Maybe there's some kind of slight difference, But even if there was, that slight difference doesn't make it valuable enough to use it over some of the best boosters in the game, such as stamina, vitality, and many others out there. So this is not one of those items that will be like, oh my god, that's a great booster, this is why I want to get this warbond. No, that is not the case. However, sickle is. On the second page, we are gonna find the stun grenade. And when I tell you this item is one of the most important items in the game, I'm not joking. This is a game changer across the board. It doesn't matter what you're fighting, automatons or the terminates. This thing is an absolute beast. On the terminate side, you're gonna be stunning everything apart from the Bile Titan. On the automaton side, you can even stun Hulks. And like if you compare this, for example, to the thermite grenade, which you need to throw 3 or 4 at a Hulk and then find another 15 of them and keep throwing until you turn Hulk into a Christmas tree, and it like takes 44 minutes, you can just throw one of these and then just swap to your support weapon and destroy the Hulk. And if we're talking about chargers, yeah, don't even get me started. You just throw this thing, swap to your flamethrower or your quasar, and you get the easiest kills of your life. And not only that, overall, when you're trying to control the battlefield, this item is an absolute game changer. You can slow down the fights so much, and it not only just stops the enemies, but it really does increase your survivability. So the stun grenades easily go to S tier. It's not even close. I don't think any of the grenades in the game come close to the stun grenades. So yes, very well deserved S tier for the stuns. Next on the list, we have the Plasma Punisher shotgun. Now you guys know, one of my favorite weapons in the game. Doesn't matter if I'm playing against automatons or the terminates. In my opinion, this is easily one of the best picks in the game. Damage 250, capacity 8 in the mag, recoil 110, fire rate 80. Something you need to know is that it is a projectile weapon, so it's one of those where it's gonna take time to master it, understand it, figure out both the range of the projectile itself, how it drops, and on top of that, the range of the explosion, so you can understand how close you can use the weapon when something's pushing you, not to damage yourself right away. So there's a lot of time you're gonna need to master this weapon. It's also one of those weapons that doesn't really care about medium armor. It destroys chargers, by the way. You can shoot him from any side as long as you're dropping the shots under the charger. You will be dealing tons of damage. One of those primaries that really does deal with chargers exceptionally well, and against automatons, just as effective. And overall, as I said, plasma weapons, explosive weapons, all of these guns make the game easier, and this one is no exception. However, since they've added shriekers to the game, and there are some enemy types on the automaton side as well, which is hard to hit with this weapon because of it being a projectile weapon, we're not gonna put it at S tier. However, we are gonna put it in between S and A tier. Let's move on to the final page, and on this page we're gonna have Blitzer and the dagger. The Blitzer shotgun, not in a great spot. As you guys can see, damage 250, infinite ammo, recoil 60, fire rate 30. It's really not it. This is not gonna get you anywhere. Yes, it can kill some ads, but it doesn't have more value than many of the guns in the game. Like if you're looking for some ad clear on terminate sides, you can use just so many better weapons that will have ad clear and also medium armor penetration at the same time that it's not even close. So no matter what this gun does, you're gonna have tons of options that get the same job done easier and better. So we're gonna put this at C tier. I'm not gonna throw it in doo-doo tier, D tier, whatever, but I am gonna throw it in C tier. Now let's talk about the laser pistol. This is, in my opinion, the worst secondary weapon in the game, and it's not even close. Especially now that we have the grenade pistol. Yes, it's a completely different thing, but the value that that one brings overall, both for automatons and terminates, is like in a different dimension. So this is gonna be D tier no matter what you're fighting, what you're doing in terms of the value that it brings. Other secondaries can bring way better value in many cases, so we're dropping this into D tier. Finally, let's talk about the Steeled Veterans. This is the first premium warbond that came with the game, and a lot of things have changed for this warbond. On the first page, you will find the Liberator Concussive, damage 55, capacity 30, recoil 28, fire rate 320. It does not have medium armor penetration, and overall, it is just not in a great spot. And the problem with this weapon is it doesn't deal enough damage. It almost has like the same kind of problem as the Adjudicator does, where it doesn't do enough damage overall. And this one does deal stagger. So if you're shooting something, you'll see them getting staggered a lot, but they don't die fast enough. But if they do increase a little bit of damage on this weapon, it could be really strong. It really can, because that stagger is helpful. And if you combine that with a little bit more damage, it could become really good. But as I said, currently it's around the same level as the Adjudicator, so that's where we're gonna drop it, which is B tier. Let's talk about the Revolver. This weapon has 150 damage, capacity 6, recoil 43, fire rate 200. It does have medium armor penetration, which is really nice. It's one-handed, and then it has rounds reload, which means that if you do shoot all of the 6 bullets, now you're reloading for 18 hours and 40 minutes. Yes, the reload is horrendous, and the damage does not justify such slow reload. Now, if this had heavy armor penetration, or it did like 500, 600 damage, and I could one-shot medium targets, one-shot commanders, and just in general deal more damage, I would understand it. But it's treated like a weapon that does this insane amounts of damage overall, but it really doesn't. And the reload takes way too long. If they fix this weapon, and if they make the reload somehow faster, or they turn it into a drum reload, so for example, you take out the 6 shots and then it kind of flips the weapon around, the drum falls out, and you just slap on a new drum, then yeah, the weapon could be exceptionally good. But currently, the damage and the reload combined together creates a problem. Not one of the greatest weapons in the game. In a world where you have the Redeemer secondary and the grenade pistol, this is not one of the best options in the game. We're gonna put this into C tier. On the next page, we have the Incendiary Grenade. Does 150 damage, and with all the fire buffs that happened in the game, this one is actually really good. Very underrated. You're not gonna see a lot of people use it, mostly because fire damage can hurt your teammates. That is a big factor, but this grenade is no joke. If you're playing against the Terminates, we're talking a lot of destruction. If we're talking about automatons, it still gets the job done. The damage is pretty decent. The fire stays around pretty long. Fire damage overall in the game right now is perfect. So you can't go wrong with the incendiary grenades. However, we do have the stun grenades as mentioned, and those are on a completely different level with the value that they bring to the battlefield. And you also have impact grenades, which are very strong. That said, this is way better than the thermite grenade. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this in between A and B tier. The next item on the list, ladies and gentlemen, the Incendiary Breaker. Let's take a look. Damage 240, capacity 25, which is really nice. Recoil 28. Fire rate 300. With all the fire buffs and the direct buff to this shotgun itself, where the damage went from 15 to 20 per shot, this thing easily S tier, guys. No matter what you're fighting, this gets the job done against automatons as well. Keep in mind, the burning does go through medium armor. It absolutely annihilates shriekers. Ad clear with this weapon is phenomenal. You cannot go wrong with the incendiary shotgun, and for me personally, this weapon has been S tier no matter what I'm fighting in the game, and that is exactly where it's gonna go. It deserves that place, and it's gonna stay in S tier. The flexible reinforcement budget is the booster that you will find on the final page of this warbond. Reduces time until new reinforcements are granted once they've been depleted. Once again, one of those boosters that you shouldn't be chasing, doesn't really bring any value to your fights currently. Yes, in the future it could be buffed and maybe it becomes more valuable, but right now, nothing about this screams, oh my god, I need to get this warbond because of this booster. So yeah, that's about it. And here we have the one and only Jar 5 Dominator, which just recently got a huge buff and overall is a monster of a weapon. No matter what you're fighting, automatons or terminates, it annihilates everything in front of you. damage 300. By the way, previously it was 200, which is a crazy buff. Capacity 15, recoil 75, fire rate 250. It does feel a little bit slow when you're using the weapon. It makes up for it with the amount of damage, the fire rate, and just being a monster. Medium armor penetrating, obviously. So this is one of those weapons that will not let you down. It is also not explosive, which means that it has that ease of use. You don't have to think about damaging yourself at all, which is a cool thing. A lot of people don't like explosive weapons because of the fact that they can deal damage to themselves. And the Dominator really doesn't have that issue. So if that's what you're looking for, on top of extremely high damage, great fire rate, medium penetration, this weapon right here is for you. And this one also goes to S tier. So now that we went over all of the war bonds, we broke down all the weapons, everything on the screen. We're gonna put up all 3 war bonds. Under them, you're gonna see the items that are most valuable in those war bonds, and this way you get a clear picture. For example, the newest war bond has the Eruptor, once again one of the most unique primaries in the game, in combination with the most unique secondary in the game, which is gonna be the grenade pistol. These are the 2 of the most valuable items in this war bond. For me personally, what determines the value of a war bond is how much it affects the overall gameplay. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think any of these war bonds are S tier, because S tier would mean that I like all the items in the war bonds overall, all the armor pieces in combination with the weapons, boosters, all that kind of stuff. And that's not the case. However, the latest war bond I do think is A tier, simply because how powerful both the secondary and the primary weapons are. It gives me the opportunity to completely change my loadouts and my support weapons because of how powerful these 2 weapons are. And overall, the heavy armor piece is actually really nice. We also know that marksman rifles are also gonna get a buff soon. In the cutting edge war bond, we have the sickle, which is a phenomenal primary weapon. But on top of that, guys, we also have the stun grenade, which is a game changer, same way as the Eruptor and the grenade pistol are. And you cannot go wrong with the stun grenade. And don't forget the plasma shotgun, which is another phenomenal option. For the cutting edge warbond, I'm also gonna go for A tier. It has 2 absolutely phenomenal weapons. One is amazing for ad clear. The second one destroys chargers, and it has an absolutely game-changing grenade, which is the stun grenade. And also, the cutting edge might be the only war bond which has pretty decent armor, because it is arc resistant, and if you're running full arc throwers, Tesla towers, all the cool stuff, it really does come in handy. As for the steeled veterans, you have the Dominator, phenomenal weapon in combination with the incendiary shotgun, which once again is another S tier pick. I feel like it has phenomenal primary weapons, especially after the Dominator and the incendiary shotgun both got huge buffs. The incendiary grenade is also great, but I'm not gonna put it in the same level as the other 2 war bonds because they don't have that, oh my god, this item changes everything kind of thing in it. The veterans war bond I would put in between A and B tier. Now I'm gonna tell you my opinion, what I would do if I didn't have any of the war bonds. I would make a decision between the stun grenade and the grenade pistol, depending on your playstyle. I would most likely pick up the cutting edge warbond first, just to get my hands on the stun grenades, and then I would go for the democratic detonation warbond. So now I have the stun grenades, I have the sickle, which is a phenomenal primary weapon, I have the best secondary weapon in the game, and after owning these 2 warbonds, I would go for the veteran warbond. But that's just me. I'm just sharing my opinion. That's what I would do. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments section below. I hope this video helps you guys make up your mind about the warbond. I truly believe that every single one of these warbonds has value in one way or another. It just comes down to what kind of playstyle you have, what you value more. But anyway, as mentioned, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Keep in mind, I got tons of more content on the way for Helldivers 2. If you guys did enjoy this video, and only if you did, don't forget, slap that like button, elbow the sub button so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. As always, stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you on the next one.
Let's go! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I mean, we literally have the best community of all time. Oh! Oh, we got no scopes!